Let's begin by offering our respects to our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
¿Qué pasa, Sirana?
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpataru Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, so we welcome all of you to our weekly Bhagavad Gita classes. We have with us here Aja, Divya, Devina, Diptyadani, Durga Prasad, Harman Bakshani, Karuna Jadwani, Manju, Meena Bharwani, N.C. Venkatchari, Neha Chatlani. Then my parents are there. Then we have Sri Hari Radha. Then we have Suhani, Vivansh, and Sandra. Okay. So, what did we see in the previous class? What is the title of chapter 8? The title of chapter 8 is
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Chapter 8, title is Attaining the Supreme. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yes, attaining the Supreme. So here Krishna is talking about how we can attain Him. Because Arjuna asks this crucial question at the beginning of the chapter as to how we can remember you at the time of death. So in order to attain the Lord, it's crucial that we can remember the Lord at the time of death. The time of death is our final exam. So just as a student has to do well in his final exam, it's important that we in this human body, we can remember the Lord at the time of death, because our last thoughts on our mind is what is going to determine our next destination. So if we want to go to the spiritual world, if we want to go to Krishna, then we have to remember the Lord at the time of death. And Bhishma Dev showed us by his own personal example as to how one should give up the body. Because when Bhishma Dev was on that bed of arrows, the war had finished, and he wanted to give up his body. At that time, he requested Krishna to please stand in front, so that he can give up his body by looking at the lotus face of Lord Sri Krishna. So like that, we must remember the Lord. And for that, to be able to remember the Lord, we need to be practicing bhakti throughout our lifetime. It's not that we think that, okay, I can enjoy, and then at the time of death, I can remember the Lord. No, that will not happen. What comes to our mind at the time of death is that which we are most attached to. Like we saw in the case of Ajamila. He was most attached to his youngest son. So he called out to his youngest son when he saw the Yamadutas. But fortunately, his youngest son's name is also the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. And therefore, Ajamila was given an extension. He was given some extra period of time to perfect his life. The Vishnudutas arrived and then he got some extension. But we may not be so fortunate. We may not get that extension. When it's time to go, we have to go. So therefore, if we practice bhakti throughout our lifetime, and if that is our number one priority, then we will be able to remember the Lord at the time of death. Of course, we also saw this verse wherein in case of bodily disturbances, because we discussed how death is painful. So if for any reason, for bodily disturbances or for any reason, if we are not able to remember the Lord, but we have practiced bhakti throughout our lifetime with sincerity and satatam, constantly, then the Lord will not forget. Even if we may happen to forget for some reason, the Lord will not forget. Every single thing that we do in our devotional life, the Lord makes a careful note of it. So this entire chapter is dedicated on how we can remember the Lord. The whole chapter is based on that. How many verses Arjuna has spoken so far in this chapter? The chapter began with Arjuna asking how many questions?
7. 5, and then 6, and then 7.
Yeah, so totally in the first two shlokas, Arjuna has asked 7 questions. So these are the only 2 verses that Arjuna has spoken in this entire chapter. You may recall that the whole of the 7th chapter was spoken by Krishna. Arjuna did not speak a single verse. Then at the end of 7th chapter, Krishna used some technical terms. And therefore now Arjuna is inquiring the meaning of those technical terms. And that's what is Arjuna's inquiry in the beginning of chapter number 8. But again, throughout the chapter, except for the first 2 shlokas where Arjuna is making that inquiry, Krishna is practically speaking the whole chapter. So again, remember, this is the bhakti section. 7th chapter, we discussed how the whole thing is just flowing directly from Krishna's heart, the bhakti section. And even chapter 8, practically the whole chapter is spoken by Krishna, except the first 2 shlokas where Arjuna is inquiring about those technical terms that Krishna used towards the end of chapter number 7. So, and see, Arjuna asking the meaning of those technical terms to Krishna also indicates that Arjuna is a very good student, because he is paying close attention to what is it that Krishna is speaking, right? He is very, very attentive to what Krishna is saying. As soon as Krishna has used some terms, those technical terms that Arjuna did not understand, immediately he's inquiring from him, what is the meaning of those terms? So it shows a very good teacher and disciple relationship. So Arjuna, we can say, is a very, very attentive and very good student. Okay, so as we discussed throughout the chapter, Krishna is talking about remembrance. And so we saw first Krishna spoke about remembrance of Krishna at death. Then he spoke about remembrance by Yoga Mishra Bhakti. And the previous class, we saw Krishna speak about remembrance by Shuddha Bhakti. And then in the previous class, we also saw how Krishna is comparing the nature of the material and the spiritual worlds. So remembrance by comparing the material and the spiritual worlds, because if we see the contrast between the two worlds, then we will be attracted towards the spiritual world. So therefore, he is contrasting these two material and spiritual worlds. Can you remember some of the characteristics of the spiritual world that we saw in the previous class, or some of the characteristics of the material world that we saw in the previous class?
For example, the characteristics of the material world is that the material world is temporary and it's dukhale shashvatam. Are you talking in that some part?
Yes, exactly. So Krishna says that the material world is dukhalayam ashashvatam. Dukhalayam means it is a place full of dukha, place full of miseries. No matter who one may be, one is suffering. Anybody who says that I am very happy, I have no problems, is actually lying. No such person can exist on the planet unless one is a pure devotee. And it doesn't mean that a pure devotee does not have problems. A pure devotee does have problems, but he has transcended, or he can transcend those problems. So those problems do not affect him like they affect a non-devotee. Okay. So an ashashvatam means it is temporary. So whatever is there in this material world is temporary. We saw how all the planets, the 14 planetary systems in the material world, they are all destroyed. At the end of Brahma's day, which planets are destroyed? How many of those 14 planets? Let me share the screen. We saw this also. Here. So we discussed how there are 14 planetary systems within our universe. And at the end of Krishna's lifetime, at the end of Brahma's lifetime, all of them are destroyed. And at the end of Brahma's day, there is a partial devastation. We saw how the residents of Maharloka go up to Janaloka. And from Maharloka below, all these planetary systems are destroyed at the end of Brahma's day. Maharloka is not destroyed, but it is unfit for habitation because of excess heat. Therefore, the residents shift from Maharloka to Janaloka, or the higher planetary systems. Okay, what else did we see about the spiritual world?
The spiritual world, we saw that there was it's not temporary, first of all, and once been gone there, then you don't have to come back, or you don't have to return to this material world. And then and so it's divine, everybody's doing service there.
Yes, exactly. Once one attains a spiritual world, Krishna says that you don't have to come back again. But material world is not like that. It is a place where there is repeated birth, death, disease, and old age. Okay. Another important point that we saw was Krishna says that the spiritual world is unmanifest. It's one cannot, with an ordinary vision, one cannot see the spiritual world. Sometimes people say, no, I cannot see God, so therefore God does not exist. But there are so many things that we cannot see. I cannot even see the person who's behind a wall. So that doesn't mean that person does not exist. It's just that my vision is not good enough to be able to see the person on the other side of the wall. So the spiritual world is unmanifest to mundane eyes. Okay. And the material world is manifest and unmanifest. So there is repeated creation and destruction of the material world. But the Lord's abode never changes like the material world. And it's also the supreme destination and a place of no return, as we already discussed. So today we will be seeing from verse number 22. Here, Krishna is going to talk about how to attain that spiritual world. So long he's talking about the glories of the spiritual world by contrasting it with the material world. Now he's going to say, how can we attain that spiritual world? Okay, but before we begin, I need one volunteer to read, please.
Can I do?
Yes, Aja. Yes, Aja. Thank you. So let's hear the shloka first.
पुरुषः स परः पार्थ भक्त्या लभ्यस्त्वनन्यया यस्यान्तस्थानि भूतानि येन सर्वमिदं ततम्.
Translation. The Supreme Personality of God, Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading and everything is situated within him.
So how to attain that spiritual world? How to attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead? How? By unalloyed devotion. Pure devotional service, pure bhakti. Bhakti should not be mixed with desire for anything else. It should not be jnana mishra bhakti, not karma mishra bhakti, no mishra, no mixing. Pure devotional service. So Krishna is saying one can attain that spiritual world, one can attain him by unalloyed devotion. Ananya. See the word Ananya in the Sanskrit. Purusha sa paraha. Purusha sa paraha means that person who is the supreme. That Purusha who is para, the supreme person. So nobody is greater than God. Nobody is equal to God. Everyone is subordinate. Everyone is a servant. Therefore, one must serve the Lord. Okay, then although he is present in his abode, so although the Lord is present in his abode, he is all pervading. So he is present in his abode, but also he is pervading everywhere. And everything is situated within him. So he is all pervading and everything is situated within him, which means he is inside everything and everything is inside him. So how is that possible? It's a little bit difficult to understand, no? So one pastime, if we see, when Krishna showed the universal form, when he showed the entire cosmic manifestation in the mouth of, in his own mouth, when Mother Yashoda saw it. See, Krishna is within this material world, no? At that time, he was in Vrindavan. And Yashoda is seeing the whole universe within Krishna's mouth. So what? Krishna, she's seeing the whole cosmic manifestation in his mouth, while Krishna himself is also present there on the earthly planet. So Krishna is within everything and everything is present within Krishna. Okay, now we come to the last section and hopefully we will finish the chapter today. Supremacy of pure devotion in attaining Krishna. So again, Krishna is going to talk about remembrance by establishing how Bhakti Yoga is supreme. It's superior to all other yoga systems. That's how he will actually conclude this chapter and this section. Let's hear the verse.
Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam vakshami bharatarshabha.
Translation. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back.
So now he is going to explain auspicious times and inauspicious times. If somebody passes away at a certain auspicious time, then what is his destination? And if somebody passes away at an inauspicious time, a yogi passes away at an inauspicious time, then what is his destination? So he's going to explain the different auspicious and inauspicious times.
Agnir Jyotiraha Shuklaha Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vido Janaha.
Translation. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God, in the light, at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north.
So this is an auspicious time for a yogi to give up his body. What is that auspicious time? during the influence of the fiery god in the light at an auspicious moment of the day. So daytime. During the fortnight of the waxing moon. And during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. So let us see. See, when the sun travels in the north, that period or the day when the sun starts its northern movement is what is celebrated as Makar Sankranti. It is known by different names in different parts of India. Makar Sankranti is the more popular name. So the term Uttarayana is derived from Uttara, north, and Ayana means movement. So that means it is the northern movement of the sun. Makar Sankranti marks the beginning of this upward movement. Lord Surya, on his dazzling chariot that has thousands of spokes and magnificent wheels, and driven by 7 horses, begins his journey northward. It begins mid-Jan and ends mid-July, approximately. This is the daytime of the demigods. So this is what Krishna is referring to here. During the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. So what is the time when the sun travels in the south? It is called as Dakshinayana. In the 6-month period when the sun travels towards the south, it begins on Kark Sankranti in mid-July. Dakshinayana marks the period when the gods and goddesses are in their celestial sleep. It is the night time of the demigods. So auspicious time for a yogi to give up his body is during the period when the sun is moving north. And the other factor here, it says during the fortnight of the waxing moon. Now, what do you mean by waxing moon? So we know that there are 30 days in a month according to the Vedic calendar. So here we have the new moon or what we call as Amavasya, and then the moon starts to increase. And then after 15 days, now it is the full moon. So this is called as the period of the waxing moon. Then after full moon, then the moon starts to reduce, right? This is Purnima. From Purnima, the moon starts to reduce, and then again it comes to Amavasya or new moon after another 15-day period. So this is the period of the waning moon. So what is auspicious is if the yogi passes away at the time of the waxing moon. So this is what Krishna is mentioning here. So if he goes during the daytime, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels north, then he can attain the supreme. Then the yogi, the Jnana yogi, he can attain the supreme Brahman. He can attain the Brahman effulgence. This is what the Jnana yogi wants, and this is what he attains. See, here we have more information. The word Ayana means path or going. The 6 months when the sun moves towards the north are called Uttarayana or the northern path, and the 6 months when it moves south are called Dakshinayana or the southern path. These are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. The first day when the sun begins to move north and enter the zodiacal sign of Capricorn is called Makar Sankranti. And the first day when the sun begins to move south and enter the sign of Cancer is called Kark Sankranti. Of these 2 days of the year, on one of these 2 days of the year, one should perform the Shraddh ceremony, which one does for the ancestors, right? So if you read this particular chapter from the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter number 21, this chapter is titled The Movements of the Sun. And in YouTube, there is a channel called Bhagawad Cosmology. You can see in this channel, there are many videos where they are explaining such phenomena. Very, very interesting. And you can also read this chapter. So you can see how the Bhagavatam actually states that the sun moves. But according to modern science, the sun does not move. But Bhagavatam version is the sun moves north and the sun moves south every 6 months.
धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्णः षण्मासा दक्षिणायनम् तत्र चान्द्रमसं ज्योतिर्योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते.
Translation: The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet but again comes back.
So now Krishna is talking about the inauspicious time. And here he's talking about the karma kandis. The karma kandis, they can reach the moon planet. So the mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, and the 6 month when the sun is going to the south, then that person can reach the moon planet, but again comes back. So let's just read the purport of this very nice purport. 1 second. See, we'll see 24. First, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, when fire, light, day, and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them, there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. So all these personalities mentioned here, fire, light, day, and fortnight of the moon, they're all different personalities. And they are handing over the yogi from one to the other. Like how, for example, you have this train. The train is moving from one station to another station, and every station has its station master that ensures the smooth passage of the train from that particular station. No? So you have the station master in charge of the different stations. So like that, these are different deities who are in charge of the smooth passing of that particular soul. So they are making arrangements for the smooth passage of the soul. At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path to a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahma Jyotir. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. So if one is advanced in the yoga practice, then the mystic yogi, he can time his leaving the body, so that his leaving the body is at an auspicious time. Okay, but others who are not so advanced, then others have no control, and if by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. So others who are not so advanced, then they have to depend on at what time death is going to happen. So by accident, if they happen to leave at this auspicious time, then Srila Prabhupada says then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is every possibility that they will have to return. However, for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or an inauspicious moment, by accident or by arrangement. Because remember, for a devotee is under the direct protection of Krishna. So it doesn't matter whether he goes at an auspicious or inauspicious time, because he is a pure devotee, everything is going to be auspicious for him. He does not have to worry about what time he is going to pass away. And the next one also we will see. Here Srila Prabhupada writes, in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni mentions that those who are expert in fruitive activities. So we discussed how this is for the karma kandis, those who are expert in karma kanda activities, fruitive activities, and sacrificial methods on earth, attain to the moon at death. These elevated souls live on the moon for about 10,000 years by demigod calculation. So the karma kandis, they can go to the higher planetary systems. They live on the moon for 10,000 years. 10,000 of the demigod years. Now, 10,000 demigod years and 10,000 earthly years, they are different. Now, we will go back to the PPT and we will see that in some time. So, we'll keep that on hold. And what do? They enjoy life by drinking somaras. They eventually return to earth. So, one may think that, okay, 10,000 years of the demigods is such a long, extended period of time. But the problem is eventually they have to come back to earth, which where again one is in the cycle of birth and death. This means that on the moon there are higher classes of living beings, though they may not be perceived by the gross senses. So even on the moon planet, there are living entities who are present, but one cannot see them by the gross senses. So if one goes to the moon and says that I was not able to see any of the living entities, they cannot be perceived by the gross senses. Another thing to note here is this term somaras. In the past, somebody was arguing that even the devatas, they are enjoying liquor, wine, whiskey. They are also drinking somaras. So why is it that we cannot? So first of all, we have to understand that our rules and regulations are different from the rules and regulations of the higher planetary systems. Those who attain the higher planetary systems, they have earned it because of their extraordinary punya karmas. Secondly, this somaras is not, you cannot compare this somaras with the ordinary liquor that is found in the liquor shops here. So there is one reference here from the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. See here, Srila Prabhupada explains. In this word, the word soma means nectar. Soma is a kind of beverage made in the heavenly planets from the moon to the kingdoms of the demigods in the various higher planetary systems. By drinking this soma beverage, the demigods become more powerful mentally and increase their sensual power and bodily strength. The word hiranmayena patrena indicates that this soma beverage is not an ordinary intoxicating liquor. The demigods would not touch any kind of liquor, nor is soma a kind of drug. It is a different kind of beverage available in the heavenly planets. Soma is far different from the liquors made for demoniac people, as explained in the next verse. So see, this somaras, it increases their mental power, it increases the sensual power, and it increases body strength. But the ordinary liquor that we get here is not doing this for us. It is doing exactly the opposite. It reduces our bodily strength, it reduces the sensual power, and it also reduces our mental power. So we cannot compare somaras with the ordinary intoxicating liquor that we get. If one is going to engage in drinking liquor, then see here is the karmic reaction. If you go to 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter number 26, it is titled A Description of the Hellish Planets. Here you have a description of some hellish planetary systems wherein it's described that if you commit this kind of a sin, then this is the kind of punishment that is awaiting in this particular hellish planet. There are several, but few of them have been described by Sukadeva Goswami in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this you can read at your own risk if you want. But we will see this about the liquor here. Any Brahman or Brahmana's wife who drinks liquor is taken by the agents of Yamaraj to the hell known as Ayapana. This hell also awaits any Kshatriya, Vaishya or person under a vow who in illusion drinks somaras. In Ayapana, the agents of Yamaraj stand on their chests and pour melted hot iron into their mouths. So this is the punishment the Bhagavatam is describing for one who drinks liquor. So one should not think that, oh, I can also intoxicate myself. I can also drink liquor because the demigods are drinking somaras. Let's come back to our PowerPoint. Okay. So here is a calculation of the earthly years and the demigods. 12 hours of the demigods is our 6 months. So 100 years of the demigods is 36,000 earthly years. And 12,000 years of the demigods is 4,320,000 years. So this is the calculation of the demigod years versus our years. So for 10,000 years, 10,000 demigod years, this karma kandi can enjoy in the moon planet. But then eventually he has to come back. That's the point. See here, coming back to the point that the sun moves, contrary to what the modern scientists believe. There is also evidence in the Brahma Samhita The sun, who is the king of all the planets, full of infinite effulgence, the image of the good soul, is as the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. So the sun performs his journey, which means the sun is on a journey. The sun moves, and he is moving in accordance to the instruction of Lord Govinda. Govinda, of course, is the name of Krishna. And there is an entire chapter in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This I already mentioned, the movements of the sun. Chapter number 51, canto number 5. You can read that also. Can you identify which temple is this? Very famous temple in India.
The Sun Temple? The Sun God Temple?
Yes,
Konark?
the Sun Temple in Konark. So if you see this structure that was built, it was also built by our ancestors, where the temple was designed as a gorgeously decorated huge chariot mounted on 24 wheels and pulled by 7 mighty horses. So our ancestors had information that the sun does move. Therefore, this temple was designed in such a way. 24 wheels and pulled by 7 mighty horses. And also we know that Surya Dev has a charioteer. Who's the charioteer of Surya Dev?
Arun?
Arun, yes. He is the charioteer of Surya Dev. He is the father of which famous personality from the Ramayana? Who gave up his life to save Sita from Ravan?
Jatayu.
Jatayu, yes. He is the father of Jatayu and Sampatti. Okay. Let's go to 26.
शुक्लकृष्णे गतिहेते जगतः शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिम् अन्यया वर्तते पुनः.
Translation. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns.
So basically here Krishna is summarizing what he said in the previous 2 verses, passing away in light and passing away in darkness. So how does all this information, what has all this information got to do with Bhakti Yoga? Is a devotee concerned about these things? Passing away in light or passing away in darkness? A pure devotee does not matter to him. So why is Krishna saying all these things? Let us see. Okay, before that, can one choose the time of leaving? So yes, an expert yogi can choose. If he is not expert in choosing, then it depends on accident or destiny. This we read in the purport. But one should also understand that nothing happens by chance. There is a reason for everything. So one cannot say that something has happened by chance. If somebody is suffering, or somebody has met with an accident, or somebody has met with an untimely death, or somebody has a big disease, it's not by chance, right? There is a reason for everything. So on one side, we are saying if one is not expert in choosing, then it depends upon accident or destiny. On the other side, we are saying that nothing happens by chance. So how to reconcile the above 2 seemingly contradicting statements? Is it unfair that one accidentally passes away at an auspicious time and attains a higher abode?
No.
So how to reconcile the statements?
You just have to do karma that is given by the Vedas and the Shastra, and then you can choose to go in a pass out from this world in a way where it is asubshious. If not taken that way, if not taken the path of that way, then Bhagavatam says there's only 2 paths that individual conditioned soul can attain from passing out of this body, right? The 2 paths is, one they can attain through asubshious karma, one they can attain through bhakti yoga. So which path do we have to choose? We have an intelligence, right? So our intelligence needs to be used in the instruction of the spiritual master. And if we don't have a instruction of the spiritual master, then the intelligence has to be used through the karma, but it should be done pious activities.
Okay, very nice. Anybody else wants to give another perspective? One example of this accidental is again in the story of Ajamila. He didn't have the intention of chanting the name of the Lord, right? His intention was that he is calling out to his son. But because the son's name is Narayan, no, the Vishnu Dutas appeared and he got an extension. So, like that, as a special case, one may accidentally pass away as a special mercy of the Lord. Because remember, the Lord is above rules and regulations. He can override the rules. He is the one who makes the rules. Okay. So, therefore, there can be, by some special arrangement, somebody may accidentally pass away at an auspicious time. Now, if one plans to leave his body at an auspicious time, will he attain a higher destination? If one plans to, okay, I'm going to give up my body, commit suicide at an auspicious time. This is the time of the waxing moon. This is the time of Uttarayan, daytime. Then will he get a higher destination?
No, I don't
Because
think so.
Krishna is saying it in the Bhagavad Gita.
Then a suicidal, you become Brahma Rakshas or you become ghosts. So no, you cannot, because that's not the Vedas Veda and spiritual master never approves that, because after initiation your body belongs to the spiritual master in the service to Krishna, and before initiation your body is dedicated to either Maya or your parents or your family or your work or your karma.
Yeah, so the body does not belong to us. The body belongs to Krishna. Post-initiation or pre-initiation, the body still belongs to Krishna, because if it was not for Krishna, we would have not got the body. Remember, we discussed creation in the previous class. So this body is not our property. So we do not have the right to bring an end to our life. Not bring an end to our life, not even bring an end to anybody else's life, any other living entity, even the small tiny ant. Because we do not have the potency to restore life. So we do not have the right to take the life away. So committing suicide, one becomes a Brahma Rakshas. One is a Brahmana and he commits suicide, then he becomes a Brahma Rakshas. And if one is a non-Brahmana, then he becomes a ghost, and then one has to remain here in his subtle body, and one is feeling hungry and thirsty, but he does not have the gross body to fulfill his hunger and thirst. So the suffering is much more greater post-suicide. So just because Krishna is saying this here, one must not misinterpret, one must not misunderstand and get the wrong ideas. Okay, so one must be very careful. Okay, let's go to 27.
नैते श्रुति पार्थ जानन् योगी मुह्यति कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन.
Translation: Although the devotees who know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion.
So a devotee does not have to worry about these two paths, no, whether he is going in the day or night, waxing moon or waning moon, during the northern journey of the sun or the southern. A devotee does not have to be concerned about this. Why? Because he is always fixed in devotion. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. See, sarveshu kaleshu. In all times, at all times, he is yoga yukta. He is fixed in devotion. So therefore, a devotee does not have to worry. So see, again here Krishna is contrasting how the passage of a pure devotee, in contrast to the passage of a person who's engaged in mystic yoga, how there is a contrast. A pure devotee does not have to worry about the time of departing. The last verse of the chapter.
वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सु चैव दानेषु यत्पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानमुपैति चाद्यम्. ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे अक्षरब्रह्मयोगो नाम अष्टमोऽध्यायः।
Translation.
Good morning.
Can I continue?
Let's begin by offering our respects to the founder Acharya of ISKCON, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The recording has stopped, is it? Now, yes. It's the translation. Okay, now,
Okay.
yeah.
Translation. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not, how do you pronounce that?
Bereft.
Bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode.
See, here in this last verse, Krishna is talking about the extraordinary potency, the power of devotional service, the power of bhakti. This is a very bold statement. What is he saying? A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from. So it's not that he is not getting the results. He also gets the results that are derived from what things? Studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical or fruitive activities. So one person may be doing a lot of charity, somebody else may do a lot of yagyas, somebody else may be very good at studying the Shastra, somebody may do a lot of tapasya, and some others are pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. So what Krishna is saying, that one who is on the path of bhakti, he by default, he automatically gets the results that are derived by doing all these other activities. He does not have to separately endeavor to do anything else. Everything is considered to be done if one is on the path of bhakti. This is a very, very important, very, very powerful statement. Then what Krishna says, simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these. And at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So if one person is on the path of bhakti, but he's not engaged in any kind of charitable work, it doesn't mean that he's not going to get the benefits of engaging in charitable work. He gets the benefit of engaging in charity and all these other things by default. Everything is considered to be done if one is on the path of bhakti. Say in maths, we have learned this concept of subset and superset. So if A is a subset of B, then whatever is there in A is automatically there in B. So like that, B is the superset of this subset of studying the Vedas, performing yagyas, undergoing tapasya, charity, pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the superset within which all other yoga systems, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, are automatically there. So Bhakti Yogi, it's not that he does not get the benefits of doing what a Karma Yogi does, Jnana Yogi does, or a Dhyana Yogi does. He gets all this and he gets more. What Krishna is saying, he does all that and plus he gets more. He attains all these and plus what is the extra thing that he's getting? At the end, he reaches a supreme eternal abode. He can attain Goloka, he can attain Vaikuntha. So when of course, when Krishna is making such statements, he also has to substantiate giving the reasons why and how. So in this chapter itself, he has explained, given two comparisons to explain how this is possible. How by contrasting how mystic yogi has to be worried about he has to depend on leaving the body at an auspicious time, either by arrangement or by accident. But for a Bhakti yogi, that is not required. And he also spoke about how Bhakti yoga is very easy to perform in contrast to what a Yoga Mishra Bhakta does. So that comparison he has given. So he has already substantiated in this chapter 2 reasons as to why a Bhakti yogi automatically gets the benefit of everything else that is done. And in chapter number 9, he's going to give more reasons to substantiate this particular statement of his. So here is an overview of the chapter. Arjuna's 7 questions and Krishna's answers to Arjuna's first 6 questions are in the verses 3 and 4. So 1 and 2 are the questions, while 3 and 4 are Krishna's answers to Arjuna's first 6 questions. And the 7th question is what Krishna is answering throughout the chapter. 5 and 8, remembrance of Krishna at death, answer to 7th question. Then remembrance by Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Then he spoke about remembrance by Shuddha Bhakti. And then he spoke about remembrance by comparing the natures of the material and spiritual worlds, so that we are attracted from the material world when we think that material world is a place of enjoyment for us. But when we understand that material world is not a place of enjoyment, then we turn towards spiritual world. So if we are thinking that, oh, this place is great, so nice, I have very good friends, I have very nice social life, I have good children, I have a good wife, I have good parents, I have a good husband, but still it is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. So when we understand that the material world is not a place for enjoyment, but enjoyment in the spiritual world is Satchit Ananda, it is eternal and it is ever-increasing bliss, then we will turn our attention and work towards attaining the spiritual realm. And finally, in the last section, which we saw today, remembrance by Bhakti Yoga is easier than by Ashtanga Yoga. We don't have to worry about giving up the body at an auspicious or inauspicious time. So here you can read this verse by verse summary when I share the slides in the class. And then we see that there are 4 comparisons Krishna makes in chapter number 8. What are the 4 comparisons? Result of remembering Krishna versus remembering anything or anyone else at the time of death. This Krishna very specifically mentions. No, so we spoke about how destination is not the same. Although death occurs for the devotee and for the non-devotee, the destination is not the same for both. So one should not think everybody anyway has to die, so better to enjoy and die. No. It's different for a devotee and different for a non-devotee. What's the other comparison? What do Bhakti yogis do as a matter of practice to remember Krishna at the time of death? So we discussed about how he raises the consciousness and in the chakras, from the lower chakras to the higher chakras. Versus what do Bhakti yogis, we discuss about how Krishna, one remembers Krishna, one has to be constant, pure, and without disturbance, without any distractions. Versus what do Yoga Mishra Bhaktas do to practice the same, which is raising the consciousness from the lower to the higher chakras. Then another comparison we saw, the spiritual realm versus the material realm. And finally, contrasting the safety, certainty, and directness of one's path post-death to the spiritual kingdom of a Bhakti yogi versus other yoga systems. So 4 comparisons in this chapter. So with this, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we come to the end of chapter number 8. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Do we have any questions?
Can I ask you a question, Abhi?
Yes.
Prabhupada says to read his books and to understand and to engage in devotional service by association and everything. But if a person is so dull and they're chanting Hare Krishna, can that only be done to attain Krishna? Or the other processes that are recommended by Prabhupada and devotees that needs to be done as well?
Okay, see, there are 64 items of devotional service, which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions. There are 64 items of devotional service. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions these 64 items, at the end, he picks his top 5. What are those top 5? He says, first of all, he says Sadhu Sangha. Then he says Nama Kirtan. Then there is Bhagavad Shravan. Then there is Mathura Vas. And 5th, he says Shraddhaya Murtira Sevaya. So if you see, the first item he mentions is Sadhu Sangha. Second item is Nama Kirtan. Sadhu Sangha means devotee association. Secondly, he says chanting the holy name. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan. Then he says Bhagawad Shravan, to hear about the Lord and the devotees of the Lord. Mathura was to reside in a holy place. Now, one may be you are in the US, I am in Chile. So we are not able to live in Vrindavan Dham, we are not able to live in Mathura Dham or Jagannath Puri or Mayapur, but we can make where we are residing, that place we can make as a holy place by our spiritual practices. Then finally he says, Shraddhaya Murtira Sevaya, to worship the deity with faith. So if you see, before even Nama Kirtan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says devotee association, Sadhu Sangha. So Sadhu Sangha is very important. If there is no Sadhu Sangha, then even the chanting and everything else, it's only a period of time that everything else will collapse. From Sadhu Sangha, from devotee association, automatically, if you are in devotee association, you will chant and you will do everything else. But if there is no devotee association, over a period of time, there is a great danger and there is a great possibility that it will all collapse. So we must always remain in the association of devotees.
What I want to know is, if you cannot remain in the association of devotee physically, can verbally it be done by lectures, hearing?
Yes, if you're in a situation where you cannot have physical association because maybe you're in an isolated place or whatever, you can get association by hearing, online classes, YouTube, so many other ways are there. But whenever there is an opportunity to have association, physical association, then you take the opportunity and you take the opportunity. Don't let it go. But if you can't do the best, then you do the next best. What else can you do?
do? Very nicely explained. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
We were discussing about the number of years in for the yogis in moon, right? Comparing with the way we were comparing two years in moon and earth, right?
Yes.
And we said it's 10,000 years they will live there, right?
Yes.
Vedic years. Okay. Then
Demigod years.
sorry?
Demigod years.
Demigod years. So can we compare that to Brahma's so do they come back only after when the next life starts? Oh,
No, they come back after they finish 10,000 years.
yeah.
10,000 demigod years. Brahma's is much greater than that.
Okay.
Okay. So demigod years and earthly years is a different calculation, and Lord Brahma's years and earthly years is a different calculation.
Okay.
Brahma's is much greater than that of.
If I want to compare that, I just have to take all the materials that you have and just do it. Where is it available? Just
so you'll have to compare. So you'll have to compare today's slides with the slides of the previous class. So the previous class we discussed Brahma's years, no?
Yeah.
100 Brahma's years is 311 trillion and 40 billion years.
Okay. So then the life start again, right? After you said all the when Brahma's life is over, all the 14 planetary system will disappear. Then again it starts.
Yes.
So I want to compare that and the moon. Yeah, moon. These yogis in the moon.
Yeah, let me see if I have it here on my. Yeah, see, 100 years of demigods is earthly years, 36,000 years. But 100 years of Lord Brahma is 311 trillion and 40 billion years.
Okay.
Okay. What else? Okay, then, since there are no more questions, we'll end today's session. In the next class, if Krishna so sanctions, we will start chapter number 9, titled The Most Confidential Knowledge. Again, this chapter begins without Arjuna asking any question. And so it's directly flowing from Krishna's heart. But yes, then Arjuna, in the middle of the chapter, he starts to speak and he reveals his realizations. And then he asks some question, which Krishna will answer. So chapter 9 is going to take some time, although it has less shlokas, comparatively shorter chapter, but it is going to take more time to finish. Anyway, there is no rush. Quality is more important. So I hope that we can finish the course successfully by Krishna's mercy. Till then, have a safe week and happy week in Krishna consciousness. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Jai. Hare Krishna, pronounce. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.